Hi guys, let me study this. James back again with another list of movies, and this is a top 5 one just because I didn't want to fill out a top 10 with movies that I didn't think were that great just so I could make a top 10. So this will be top 5. Top 5, if you saw the title, werewolf films. Because I realized I hadn't done one. I had done vampire films, and zombie films, but not werewolf films. So I will start with number 5. This is a film from 2011 called The Howling, Reborn. You'd think, at first glance, typical direct-to-video, but this was actually a surprisingly good film with a great soundtrack. And discovered a really good song on this one. And yeah, the guy who says goodbye to you is out of his mind. Yeah, you can look it up in the credits of the movie. And I can't remember the name of the singer at the moment. Anyway, this one stars Lindsay Shaw, who I'd only ever seen in No One Lives, that WWE produced horror film. Landon Laboiron, I don't know who that is. Ivana Milicevic, seen her in several things. You'd recognize her. And this is just sort of another one. The storyline's kind of generic, where someone's being killed around town, looks like it could be an animal attack, and then the boy gets infected, and he falls in love with the girl, and she wants him to infect her, and it turns out his mother, who hasn't seen in a while. It's not a highly mysterious plot. It's not hard to figure out, but I thought it was very well done. So I won't preface it with spoilers because there's not much to spoil. It's just an entertaining movie for a series that had run out of steam like decades ago. So it was a good update to the series. So that was The Howling Reborn. It was 20. Okay, number 4, we have a film from 2014. You could say horror comedy. It's called Wolfcop. And this movie I thought was hilarious. Most of the people you wouldn't recognize except Jonathan Cherry and Sarah Lind in supporting roles. And I think it's Jesse Moss who plays the Wolf Cop, titular Wolf Cop, and Jonathan Cherry plays, I think, his deputy or his friend. Sarah Lind is a bartender in the film, and you recognize some various Canadian talent throughout the movie. It's basically a cop who is an alcoholic, gets turned into a werewolf, and becomes a wolf cop, and fights crime as a werewolf. And it's about as deep as it sounds. It's funny, low budget Canadian indie horror comedy movie that I recommend. Wolf Cop 2 is pretty good. Not nearly as good as the original. But it's still a decent follow-up. So that's Wolf Cop. Now, number 3 from 2004 is Ginger Snaps 2 Unleashed. I originally had the first Ginger Snaps movie on here. These are Canadian horror films. The Ginger Snaps series. But I didn't want to do top 6. Top 6 sounds weird, and put 2 movies from the same series on there. So out of the 2 movies that I would put on this list, I'd pick Ginger Snaps 2. I didn't really care for Ginger Snaps Back, the beginning, the third one, because they just retold the original Ginger Snaps story from back in frontier times. It wasn't very. It was just repetitive, and it's like, well, I've seen this story before, and I think they did it better the first time around. Anyway, this one picks up from where Ginger Snaps left off, in that Ginger is dead. The sister has carried on what they call the curse, and she ends up in an asylum, and is slowly turning into a werewolf, and trying to come to terms with it. And she's not crazy, but she's in an asylum with other crazy people, one of which I believe is played by it's a character named Ghost, though, is played by Tatiana Maslany from like Echo Black, whatever that show was, where there's like 8 different copies of them. Anyway, she was also in the She-Hulk TV show. Anyway, I love, most of the movie takes place in the asylum. I thought it was very well done. The claustrophobia and the way they updated, they did better special effects in this one. Tatiana Maslany did a great job, but it's mostly Emily Perkins from the first movie and from the It miniseries that I think really shines in this movie. So this was I'd recommend the original Ginger Snaps, and then this one, not so much the third one. All right, number 2, a film called W-E-R. It's a werewolf film from 2013, and it was done by William Brent Bell. And this one stars A.J. Cook, British actors you'd recognize. Simon Quarterman, who I believe was in the first few seasons of Westworld. And Sebastian Roche, he was the father of all the originals that you meet in Vampire Diaries and the originals. Can't remember his name in the show. Anyway, Klaus's father, that he's at odds with all the time. Anyway, this one is sort of a someone's arrested and put in jail because he attacked and killed someone, and it looked like an animal attack, and they suspect he may have this disease that sounds remarkably like lycanthropy, like he's a werewolf. And turns out he is a werewolf, but it's not handheld, but it has that kind of look to it, sort of like As Above, So Below, where a lot of it is handheld, but it's not a found footage movie. It just has that look to it. And very, very well done, the effects in this movie and how they sort of play with the mythology, or like try and make it realistic. And quiet. Anyway. Yeah, I would highly recommend this one. It was very well done. Didn't get a theatrical release as far as I know, and I haven't been able to find it on DVD or Blu-ray either. I just saw this one online. So, there's some workers outside. Alright, number one. Number 1, it's obvious what this would be. If you aren't familiar with Neil Marshall, I'd highly recommend getting familiar with him. This was one of his earlier films and still one of his best ones. This is from 2002. This is Dog Soldiers. So this is basically a werewolf film dealing with a lot of the military. And it's sort of this cabin in the woods that gets assaulted by werewolves, and they have one captured, one of the soldiers. It's just sort of a different take on the werewolf genre, whereas you've meshed werewolf mythology with the military and how the military is fighting werewolves, and when one of the army guys gets turned into them. It takes place over in England, and so good. It's one of the better werewolf movies, in my opinion, that's ever been made. And it wasn't Neil Marshall's first one. I think one of his first ones was The Descent. This might have been his second or third film, I think. But highly, highly recommended as tops in the werewolf genre. Yeah, so short and sweet. I think that's it. Hope you enjoyed this one. Apologies about Jesse James. Like, comment, and subscribe, and excuse me. Any suggestions are welcome. So, toodles.